A conflict between two motorists in Virginia Beach nearly escalated into deadly violence in October of 2023 when a motorcycle rider and the driver of an SUV got into a heated argument at a busy intersection. Disturbing footage captured by a witness showed the biker getting off his seat and reaching for a compartment on the motorcycle while the SUV driver flung his door open and pointed a gun at the biker. Just a moment later, a police officer rushed onto the scene from across the street. The man in the SUV cooperated with the cop's orders to drop his gun and put his hands in the air. He proceeded to lay face down on the ground and was swarmed by officers who handcuffed him and took him into custody. Police also detained a passenger who was riding in the SUV. The motorcyclist pulled away but was pulled over nearby. Both parties were ultimately released without charges. Number 14. Close call in Alabama. Charles Letson was riding his motorcycle in Fultondale, Alabama, on a Friday morning in June of 2014 when a fellow driver erupted into a fit of road rage toward him. Letson claimed that a man behind the wheel of a Nissan SUV repeatedly brake-checked him and tried running him over. Determined to catch the aggressive driver in the act, Letson began recording the incident with his phone. He caught up to the man in the Nissan who pulled a gun and pointed it straight at Letson. The man kept his finger on the trigger while Letson kept his cool. They exchanged some heated words before going their separate ways, thankfully without resorting to physical violence. Letson's footage went viral, garnering mixed reactions of shock and skepticism. Some commenters speculated that the entire interaction was staged in order to attract social media attention, but Letson denied this allegation in an interview with Car Scoops, claiming that he reported the incident to the police and that they didn't do anything about it. Weeks later, the SUV driver told local station WVTM13 that he had no reason to try running Letson off the road or to threaten the biker's life. He further explained that he was trying to get away from Letson, who caught up to him after he drove away and threatened his life. The driver said that he drew his gun because he thought Letson had a weapon, causing him to fear for his life. When a reporter asked Letson why he drove after the SUV instead of letting the situation end there, he claimed he was acting in self-defense. Letson also accused the Nissan driver of threatening his life and said that he felt a need to defend motorcycle enthusiasts as a whole because he did not believe they got the respect they deserve on the road. Both men admitted that they acted with poor judgment but defended their actions. No arrests were made, but the SUV driver lost his pistol permit and his job after the video went viral. Number 13. Tyler Witter. Shortly after 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning in December of 2023, police responded to a reported road rage incident at a gas station in Middletown, Connecticut. A woman told officers that she honked her car horn at a Hyundai sedan that was blocking the parking lot entrance as she tried pulling in. She said that the Hyundai driver waved his arms at her, but she was able to get into the parking lot, so she parked and went inside the store. According to a police report, the Hyundai driver was waiting for the woman near her vehicle when she exited the store. Identified by police as 29-year-old Tyler Witter, he was accused of pointing a gun at the woman as she got into her car. An arrest warrant stated that Witter, who is African American, made a derogatory statement about hating white people toward the victim, who is reportedly of Puerto Rican descent. The woman told the suspect that she was calling the police and he drove away. Investigators identified Witter as the alleged culprit after concluding that the man seen in the surveillance footage of the encounter matched the description of the Hyundai's registered owner. Witter was charged with first-degree threatening with a firearm, second-degree intimidation based on bias or bigotry, and second-degree breach of peace. The current status of the case is unclear. Number 12. Joseph Lagana. In January of 2019, a Pasco County Sheriff's deputy was dispatched to the Gun Highway Flea Market in Odessa, Florida, in response to a complaint about an unruly customer. According to an arrest affidavit, 27-year-old Joseph Lagana was being loud and argumentative toward fellow patrons because he was angry about receiving a Philly cheesesteak on a bun with sesame seeds. The report noted that the suspect appeared heavily intoxicated. Lagana also reportedly took his frustrations out on a cashier, prompting the staff to call law enforcement for help defusing the situation. He was booked into the Pasco County Jail on a misdemeanor disorderly intoxication charge and was released after posting a $100 bond. The outcome of the case is unclear. Number 11. David Mendez and Edras Ramirez. In a disturbing road rage incident that was captured on camera outside Los Angeles in June of 2012, a pair of suspects chased and attacked a motorist along the 710 freeway in Long Beach. According to news reports, 50-year-old Jerry Patterson accidentally cut off a vehicle occupied by 21-year-old David Mendez and 27-year-old Edras Ramirez. Mendez and Ramirez were accused of following Patterson and blocking his car at an interchange, where they proceeded to beat and stomp on him. Cell phone footage of the altercation appeared to show Patterson and one of the suspects swinging at each other. He managed to hold his own until the other suspects joined in and pulled him to the ground. The two young men fled the scene, leaving him beaten on the pavement. Patterson refused medical attention despite suffering a concussion and was quick to leave the scene. He also declined to press charges, but law enforcement chose to continue investigating the case. After footage of the beating began circulating on social media, Mendez and Ramirez turned themselves in to the police. They initially pleaded not guilty to felony assault with a deadly weapon, but both men eventually changed their pleas to no contest. They were each sentenced to 3 years of probation, 45 days of highway cleanup, and 36 anger management sessions. Although Patterson was the victim in this particular case, he was wanted in connection with an unrelated road rage incident that had occurred just weeks earlier. In the previous case, a driver reportedly followed Patterson after witnessing his vehicle hitting two other cars. Patterson was charged with battery and driving under the influence, but failed to show up for a scheduled court hearing, resulting in a warrant for his arrest. He pleaded not guilty to the charges, but the outcome of the case is unclear. Number 10. Corbelan Jorge Hernandez. In late March of 2017, a middle-aged man went on a rampage at a Chevron gas station in Santa Ana, California, when the cashier tried kicking him out of the store. The incident began when the employee approached the man outside the Orange County business and asked him to leave because he was loitering and harassing customers. Instead of cooperating, the man yelled at the clerk, then entered the store and began throwing candy bars at her. He then stepped out briefly and walked back in with his fist swinging as the worker called 911. Luckily, the cashier had locked the door leading behind the counter, preventing the man from succeeding in his attempts to punch her. He exited the store momentarily again, then re-entered and began ripping items from shelves and knocking over displays, causing an estimated $1,200 in damages. After leaving the scene in a vehicle, the same suspect was involved in a road rage incident. According to police, he cussed and spat at a fellow driver, then exited his car and repeatedly punched a passenger side window. Despite having ample video evidence of the convenience store encounter, investigators struggled to identify the man. They released the video to the public along with an appeal for information. 2 months after the rampage, authorities announced the arrest of a 57-year-old homeless man called Corbelan Jorge Hernandez, who was identified with help from 2 tipsters who recognized him in the footage. Hernandez was living in his car at the time of the gas station incident. When questioned about his actions that day, he reportedly told police that he was having a bad day. He was charged with felony vandalism, but updates on the case have not been forthcoming, leaving the outcome unclear. Number 9. James Iannazzo. It's a good idea to assume that if you throw a tantrum in public, someone will capture it on video. A 48-year-old Merrill Lynch wealth manager named James Iannazzo learned this lesson the hard way in January of 2022 when he flew into a rage at a smoothie shop in Fairfield, Connecticut. Iannazzo was reportedly upset because his son, who was highly allergic to nuts, went into life-threatening anaphylactic shock after buying a drink at the shop. When the boy was hospitalized, Iannazzo confronted the store's teenage employees and demanded to know who made his son's beverage. When workers avoided answering the question, Iannazzo threw the drink at a female staff member and called her an immigrant loser. A TikToker who was in the store pulled out her phone and began recording the confrontation as it unfolded. A video of the encounter quickly racked up millions of views, and it wasn't long before Iannazzo's superiors discovered the footage and fired him from his job of more than 25 years. Authorities charged Iannazzo with intimidation based on bigotry or bias, breach of peace, and criminal trespass. He was sentenced to a year of probation as part of a program which would allow him to avoid a criminal conviction, as long as he avoided further legal trouble during his supervision period. Iannazzo was also ordered to donate $500 to charity, but the judge acknowledged that the worst punishment would come in the form of forever being labeled the Fairfield smoothie guy. In a statement, Iannazzo apologized for his actions. He insisted that his behavior did not reflect his values or character, and that he was in a highly emotional state due to his son's medical emergency. In addition to his criminal case, Iannazzo was sued in civil court by the worker he threw the smoothie at. The plaintiff sought a $300,000 reward, but the case was settled for $7,500. After squaring away the smoothie incident, Iannazzo seemed intent on avoiding any further unwanted publicity, but his name landed in the news yet again during the summer of 2023 when the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority accused him of structuring his banking transactions to avoid federal reporting requirements for tax purposes. According to FINRA, Iannazzo limited his cash withdrawals to $10,000 to avoid triggering a federal tax report, including by making multiple withdrawals on the same day at different banking institutions. Some finance and banking experts have speculated that industry regulators are singling Iannazzo out due to the notoriety he gained following the smoothie shop tantrum, noting that structuring is only a crime if it's done with the intention to evade the IRS. The case appears to be ongoing. Number 8. Evian Gabrielle Villegas. In April of 2018, a 38-year-old North Carolina woman was arrested for throwing a violent tantrum and fighting officers at Raleigh-Durham International Airport. According to law enforcement, Evian Gabrielle Villegas approached the Delta counter and tried checking in for a flight, but was told by employees that she didn't have a ticket and that her dog could not fly with her. She began cursing at staff members as her dog barked at and became aggressive toward travelers. Villegas was also accused of punching an officer and spitting in his face and acting combative as officers restrained her. She was charged with assault on a law enforcement officer, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. During her first court appearance, she interrupted the judge as he tried assigning her a public defender and announced her intentions to represent herself. Villegas continued to raise her voice as she asked to make a phone call and accused the authorities of holding her in solitary confinement for 3 days. She also tried to plead guilty to disorderly conduct but was led from the courtroom by bailiffs due to her explosive behavior. A spokesperson for the Wake County Sheriff's Office told news station WRAL that Villegas had access to a phone for a 10-hour period until she was placed in protective custody while awaiting her hearing. Records show that she eventually pleaded guilty to lesser charges and was sentenced to 11 days in jail with credit for time served. Number 7. Annette Keeley. A disagreement over parking spaces in Worcester, England, took a violent turn in February of 2022 when 56-year-old Annette Keeley smashed up 3 of her neighbors' cars with a 3-foot-long piece of wood on a drunken rampage. According to prosecutors, the deceptively small-framed woman laid siege to the vehicles after drinking wine and whiskey because she believed that the victims were habitually using her boyfriend's parking spot, even though there was no designated parking in that area. Security footage of the tantrum showed Keeley striking neighbor Richard Breakwell's car shortly before 11 p.m. Breakwell later told Yahoo News that Keeley was behaving like some kind of wild animal and that she must have hit the cars 100 times or more. His windshield and motor were heavily damaged, amounting to a 4-figure repair bill. Another neighbor, John Spinetto, ponied up more than $4,000 in repair costs while living on a fixed income. The crazed attack ended when Keeley's boyfriend intervened and led her away. She ultimately pleaded guilty to assaulting Breakwell along with 3 counts of criminal damage. Despite the expensive repair expenses and the unforeseen financial struggle that followed, however, she was only ordered to pay around $125 in compensation to each of the victims. Number 6. John Hopoate. 50-year-old former professional boxer and rugby player John Hopoate is no stranger to controversy. The Tongan-born athlete is infamously known as the most suspended rugby player of the modern era, with his most recent punishment consisting of a 10-year ban from the New South Wales Rugby League and its affiliates. Known for his short temper and aggressive tendencies, Hopeway most recently made headlines following a road rage incident on Sydney's northern beaches in April of 2024. In a video uploaded to his own Instagram account, he could be seen standing over and threatening a 38-year-old man in Narrowena, New South Wales. The alleged victim reported the altercation to the police, and both men were fined $500 for offensive behavior. Hopeway adamantly denied being the aggressor in a social media post. He accused the man of punching one of his car mirrors and swinging at him while attempting to intimidate Hopeway with his large size. The former rugby player went on to accuse the man of acting tough until he was on the ground, at which point he cried out for help. Further investigation revealed that Hopeway was driving on a suspended license when the incident occurred. Neither of the men were seriously injured, but instead of paying the fine and putting the incident behind him, Hopeway contested the penalty. The case was ongoing as of April 2024. This isn't the first time that Hopeway's temper has landed him in hot water with the law. In 2016, he was arrested for assaulting a supermarket employee. He pleaded guilty and was fined $1,500. 3 years earlier, he was fined for intimidating a parking officer who ticketed him for parking illegally. In 2010, Hopeway was accused of assaulting a patron at a nightclub where he was working as a bouncer. Following his most recent brush with the law, he announced his plans to return to boxing, and one can only hope that he keeps his physical fights inside the ring from now on. Number 5. Houston Road Rage Brawl. David Dow was on his way to volunteer at a charity event in Houston on a Saturday morning in May of 2016 when he witnessed a heated argument going on between 4 people at an intersection. His daughter began recording the altercation as a man tried to calm down an irate woman while she argued with another man who was a passenger in a white car. According to Dow, the driver of the white car had tried squeezing into a turning lane but was blocked from doing so by a man driving a pickup truck who inched forward and refused to let the car in. The woman who was seen screaming at the sedan's passenger had been riding in the pickup truck and had exited the vehicle in order to confront the people in the car. During the argument, the man behind the wheel of the truck sped up and nearly hit the woman, his own passenger, who proceeded to throw her drink at the passenger in the car. In the video captured by Dow's daughter, the truck driver could be seen exiting the pickup and kicking the car's grill. The altercation quickly escalated into an all-out brawl between both drivers and their passengers. It didn't last very long before the parties disengaged and returned to their vehicles, but the incident was far from over. Before fleeing the scene, the driver of the pickup truck smashed into the white car, which proceeded to follow the truck. The driver of the sedan filed a police report later that day, but it's unclear whether any arrests were made in connection with the incident. Number 4. Gail Williams. In February of 2023, a woman shot at another driver in broad daylight on Highway 11 in Lenoir County, North Carolina. Police pulled 47-year-old Gail Williams over as she drove northbound into neighboring Pitt County and detained her until Lenoir County deputies arrived at the scene. Williams was charged with assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill. Authorities released few details about what led up to the incident. The victim, 24-year-old Michael Davis, told local station WITN that he wasn't driving aggressively and that Williams got upset after he looked over at her while they were driving alongside one another in separate lanes. After Williams fired a shot into the back of Davis's car, he slowed down, called 911 and followed her. Lenoir County Detective Blake Benson commended Davis for handling the situation calmly and for letting law enforcement deal with Williams rather than taking things into his own hands. At the time of the interview, Davis was still in shock and processing what had happened. In hindsight, he imagined how the situation could have turned out much worse and could have even cost him his life. Following her arrest, Williams was held in custody without bail, with the possibility of more charges being added to her case. Records show that she was convicted of discharging a firearm into occupied property and sentenced to 3 years of probation along with a suspended prison term, which could go into effect if she violates the terms of her supervision. Number 3. Brampton Road Bully. a Tesla owner who was driving in Brampton, Ontario, on a Saturday evening in March of 22 when they looked in their rear-view mirror and saw an SUV weaving in and out of traffic. The Tesla was equipped with multiple dash cams which captured footage of the white GMC Yukon Denali passing other vehicles at a high rate of speed, tailgating cars and speeding through at least one red light. Speaking with Toronto-based Blog 2, the Tesla driver said that the man in the Denali kept trailing them in their blind spot in heavy traffic. The SUV driver was clearly in a rush as he tried cutting around the Tesla, but they were at a red light and there wasn't enough room. As the Denali tried squeezing ahead, he got close enough to the Tesla to set off its collision warning alarm. The Tesla driver maneuvered into a neighboring lane to avoid getting hit by the SUV as the man behind the wheel became increasingly frustrated with his inability to bypass traffic. He even stepped out of the Denali at one point, causing the Tesla driver and their partner to worry that he might have a weapon. The couple couldn't tell what the irate man was saying, but luckily he got back into the SUV and drove away. Police were notified of the incident, but it's unclear if any arrests were made. Today's topic was requested by Amy Lynn, Sheathins D, and Steve 5635. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Hit and run suspect attacks victim. In June of 2023, a Canadian man was struck by an alleged hit-and-run driver in Brampton, Ontario. Determined to hold the culprit accountable, the man approached the driver's side of the suspect's window and waited as she rolled her window down. Instead of talking rationally about the situation, she immediately exited the car and charged at the man as he filmed the encounter with his cell phone. The woman could be heard asking the hit-and-run victim why he was filming her as he backed away from her aggressive advances. In response, the man asked the suspect why she was leaving the scene of the collision. She continued swinging and grabbing at him despite being told to stop as her empty vehicle began rolling forward. The man could be heard telling her that her car was moving, at which point she got in the vehicle and parked it. She then exited the vehicle again and told the man that she was calling the cops, which he encouraged her to do. For a few moments, the woman seemed to be calming down, then out of nowhere she charged at the man again. The video of the encounter quickly made the rounds on social media, where some commenters shrugged it off as just another day in a city that is plagued by road rage problems. Others commended the man for remaining calm throughout the ordeal and even helping the woman by letting her know that her car was rolling away. It's unclear whether any arrests were made in the case. Number 1. Aklin Mbabazi Mugisha, a minor fender bender in Miami, needlessly escalated into something much more serious in May of 2024 when a woman charged at a driver who rear-ended her with a screwdriver in her hand. The attack occurred at around 6 o'clock in the morning along the MacArthur Causeway as a news helicopter filmed the encounter from above. In the video, the woman, later identified by law enforcement as 26-year-old Aklin Mbabazi Mugisha, could be seen raising a screwdriver above her head as she ran toward two men who tried to avoid her path. She targeted the older of the two gentlemen while his friend pushed her away, then refocused the attack on the younger man as she grabbed him by the throat and made stabbing motions with the screwdriver. The struggle lasted for several seconds before a third man entered the picture and pulled Mugisha away. According to local officials, Mugisha had stopped her BMW in the road and was partially blocking traffic when it was struck by an SUV driven by Freddie Diaz. The encounter between the two drivers began as a verbal confrontation and escalated into physical violence after Diaz's father arrived at the scene. Mugisha accused Diaz's father of being aggressive and pulling her hair, claiming that she only went and retrieved the screwdriver from her car after he got physical with her. Based on their findings, however, prosecutors charged the woman with 2 counts each of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. During Mugisha's first court appearance, the judge set bail at $7,000 and offered some common sense advice, stating, in the future, if you're driving and you're ever involved in a car accident, it's probably best to just call police and remain in your vehicle so you avoid having to come to criminal court. Mugisha appears to no longer be in custody, indicating that she most likely posted bond and is free pending the outcome of the case. Thanks for watching. Would you rather spend 6 months in a maximum security prison or be obligated to attend anger management classes every week for the rest of your life? Let us know in the comments section below.